Cool. You ready?
Yes.
Boom. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
So, Anna, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anna? I heard you say the Dweezy. You said Anna. I'm like, oh, wow.
Anna. Well, Anna is the Latin way to pronounce
very
it.
Latino. I said, okay. First of all, thank you so much for coming on to the show. We were playing Facebook Messenger tag for quite some time, and then you were traveling across the world. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just in the last month, I think I was following you. You were in New Orleans, correct?
In New Orleans, yeah.
And then you were just in Alaska.
I was in Alaska. It was beautiful.
Why did you go there?
I went to Alaska for a women's convention, a recovery women's convention, and then I took a recovery cruise to Alaska that I just got back a few days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
How cool. You just travel like crazy.
I do.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's one of those things, man, where I say those are the gifts. I think I even said that to you because being able to travel I never even thought about. I never left San Diego when I was getting loaded.
Yeah, I was used on a 3-block radius. It was a hostro, and those 3 blocks I copped, I used, I worked, and the only time I left is when I went to jail. Right. And so when I got clean and the world became my oyster and I got to come alive and I got to experience things outside of the horrors of addiction, it was the biggest gift for me.
Wow. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's just get right to it. So where are you from?
Los Angeles.
Born and raised. Come on.
Born and raised in Los Angeles, the San Gabriel Valley. I ended up in San Diego because my mom had moved to San Diego in 1987. They let me out of Silver Brand, LA County Jail, and I knew I needed something different. I just knew I needed something different, so I asked her if I could come home. I'd been a teenage runaway on the streets of Los Angeles since I was 14. And she's like, okay, you can come. She took a big chance because I always just created havoc.
Right.
But you got to get some help. And I didn't know what help looked like, but I didn't know anything about recovery.
Right.
So I ended up loaded in San Diego, and then I got clean in 88.
So crazy. So your clean date is what?
May 10th, 1988.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of X's. 3 of them, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's 3 of them.
With some lines, and you know what I mean?
3 X's, a V, and 2 I's.
Wow. Perfect. My UPS guy's coming right now, too. This is awesome. You know, this is the part that it's just very organic studio, in the garage here. Yeah, that's so crazy to me to think about, like, somebody being clean that long. Like, Dweezy and he's in recovery as well. And we were just talking, I'm like, hey, Dweezy's going to have 6 years coming up soon.
Yeah, nice.
And 9 more days or 7 more days, I'm going to have 10. And I'm like,
congratulations.
10? That's crazy.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. But anyways, 37 years. So you got here. What was your drug of choice?
Well, it was the 80s, so mostly cocaine.
Yeah.
I mean, I did everything. But we did a lot of cocaine in the 80s. We smoked a lot of crack, a lot of hallucinogenics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love those.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple bad trips to where I was like, whoa.
I didn't have any bad trips. I would touch God. Those were the times that I could just touch God.
Wow.
So I would have these spiritual experiences. However, one time I decided, because, you'd have these experiences and then you'd come down and you'd kind of forget it all. Like the answers to life would flood in. So one time I said, okay, I'm going to write it down. And I wrote it down. And a few days later, when I opened up that journal and I looked at it, it was all gibberish. And I was like, oh, that's right. The drugs make you think you're having this experience, but you're actually not. So I thought I was having those experiences, but I wasn't.
It's just gibberish written down.
The real spiritual experiences have been in recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, have they.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy because a lot of people use, psychedelic drugs now to, like, see some things or, be one with something. And, there's a lot of people that are using it to where they're, like, microdosing now. And it's like...
Yeah, they're using it as a therapy.
Yeah, there are some stuff and some people that do that, and it's helped them out with anxiety and stuff.
And people have to make their own choices. I just know for me as an addict, some of those things aren't really a choice for me. I think that there's some value in, the medical community is finding value in these medicines that we consider drugs,
Right.
because of the way that we use them. Same thing when somebody has surgery and they have to use a medicine that for us, I'm wanting to crush it up and put it in my arm.
Right.
So there's that place where sometimes we might have to use certain medicines that can set off our disease. And so we just have to be careful. So I haven't made any choices in recovery to use any of those types of medicines. I know they have mushroom therapies and they have ayahuasca journeys and they have.
Yeah, ayahuasca.
I've made the choice not to.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that I used and where I come from. However, I have had a few surgeries clean, where I've had to use medicine. Like they gave me straight out of surgery. They had given me some what's it called?
Percocet.
No, morphine.
Morphine.
And I just puked my guts up.
Right.
And I was like, don't give me any more of that. Just give me ibuprofen 800. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And that's what I chose to do. And those are just my choices.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I know someone who has long-term recovery who did a therapeutic guided with a licensed therapist mushroom to get through some trauma. There was some trauma that just stuck. So they went through one of those journeys with an actual licensed medical professional. They've only did it that one time. They didn't give up their clean time, and it was a therapeutic thing. And so, people get to decide what's best for them.
Right.
I think the hard part is that as addicts, we can sometimes the disease gets to creep in and the denial gets to creep in, and then, once was okay. What about, that's what I'm afraid of.
Me too.
That's what I'm afraid of. And that's why I just but I'm not suffering from traumatic experiences that have kept me from functioning in the world. So it's easy for me to say, but,
Right. Yeah, I've known tons of people, not tons, but a few people that would be in recovery and still drink non-alcoholic beer. It just, for me, I can't do that.
I don't fuck with
it's just it's not the same for one. And it's I don't know. I relapsed after drinking 6 or 8 St. Pauli Girl non-alcoholics because I was with my friend and I was in recovery, and I'm like, this is dumb. And the next day I was drinking regular beer, right?
Yeah.
It was just.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to each their own, I guess, and however they, I don't want to judge anybody on how they do their program at all, I just know for myself, I have to be completely abstinent. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. I am in fear of getting hurt. And I ride motorcycles and all this stuff, and I'm like, man, I'm in such big fear to where if I have to be on medication, how am I going to act? Because we hear so many stories with long-term recovery.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're taking 2 more pills than they should, and then that's a relapse. And
yeah, it's
super scary.
I'm scared of it.
Yeah.
I am scared of it. I too had an experience when they first came out with a near beer, in the 90s. They first came out with those non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah.
And my sister, she's a voice teacher and a singer, so she was in this bar doing karaoke, and they had these non-alcoholic beers. And my husband at the time, not John, a different, my first husband, he passed away actually. But
R.I.P.
Jose had got one, so I went and I took a sip off of it. And the weirdest thing happened to me. My body had a memory of that flavor, and all of a sudden this warm came over me.
Wow.
And there was no alcohol in it.
Right.
But this euphoric recall happened, if I actually took a big chug off of a beer, how and my body went flavor and brought in this, and I went, oh no. And I just knew at that moment that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I ever since, I don't even mess with it.
It's God wrought on that, man, because there's no alcohol.
No,
You know what I mean?
there's
It's
none.
like
But my body went, oh yeah,
your
that
disease was like, got her. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
like, oh,
I
no.
just gave it to her right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, I'm not messing with this. Is not for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when you came to San Diego, that was the first time you went into any sort of treatment?
Well, I didn't know anything about, I didn't ever go to treatment. I never went to a treatment. I went to a meeting and been clean ever since.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I didn't, when I first got here, there was this place that called ESC or something like Episcopal Services or something. And they had drug counselors that my mom found. So I went to this counselor every week. At first, before I even knew anything about 12 steps or anything like that. And so I tried that, but eventually I ended up loaded. And so I ended up loaded on the streets of San Diego, and it really helped me hit a bottom. You know, in Los Angeles, where I was from and where I worked, you know, working as a prostitute, there's, you know, was a certain price point that we had in Los Angeles that you guys did not have here, at least where they sent me when I asked the dope man where the hostro was, right? I took all the change out of the house to go cop, right?
Nice.
And then I was like, where's the hostro? And he sent me to 32nd and Ocean View.
Nice.
And so there it
Beautiful
was,
place.
yeah, it was quite the different,
We're talking like how much money different?
a lot different. So from like $100 to $25 down to my last day using $10, and I knew that it was over for me.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even get loaded on $10, and I hit my knees and I asked God to help me. And the next day I was in a meeting, and I've been clean ever since.
Yeah, that's wild. So to go back, like, so you ran the streets really hard.
Really hard.
That's what I was going to ask. What were you doing in LA? You know, what was your life there? Like, because you were saying since 14, right? You've been out on your own. So did your life start, you know?
I started using it about 10, but first started doing, you know, working street at 14. In and out, not
Dude,
constant.
that's so crazy to think about. You're 14.
Yeah, I know. It's
Fucking
crazy.
wild, man.
It is.
And what year was this? 80 what?
It was 80s. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, maybe not even that, no?
No, it was, I think, 1980, 1979 or 80, something like that.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
1979. I mean, punk rock was on the scene, and so it was a whole, like, it was just a street kid at first, and I'd go hit little licks because, you know, we were desperate. I lived in a house in Hollywood on Spalding with a bunch of us just kind of, we're just a mess.
Yeah.
We're just a bunch of drug addict, angry teenagers, punk rockers.
Right.
And
did you have green hair?
I didn't have green hair. No, I didn't have green hair. But I had
What kind
like
of punk rocker didn't have green hair?
I didn't have green. Doesn't look good on me.
What about pink?
Yeah, I have a little. Look, I have a little color in my hair.
Oh yeah, you have it right now. Damn, 37 years, still got it. Don't trip.
I had an all-girl punk band in recovery too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so it just, you know, the disease is progressive. It starts to get worse and worse and worse. And by the time I was 19 years old, I was daily, like, just in and out of jail, and lived a very, very difficult life. And I just didn't know any different, I guess, until I did. It's like the blanket of denial that was over my face that one day where it just got pulled off of my face, and I got to see who I really was, and that I was going to die like this.
For sure.
And you know, people used to say the weirdest things. When I was young, I was really pretty when I was young.
You're so pretty now. What are you talking
well,
about?
you know, it's different than, you know, being a 20-year-old and a 60-year-old.
Got it.
You know what I mean? There's a big difference. And so when I was young, people would say things to me like, "Oh, you're too pretty to do that. What's wrong?" You know, and like, it's just the disease doesn't care, like, what kind of family you come from, what color you are, you know, if you're considered pretty or not, you know, like, all those things don't matter. The fact of the matter is I was suffering from a disease that was progressive and life-threatening, and I was dying. And I'm really, really grateful. My mom had a friend who was in another fellowship, and the Mother Fellowship, and she found a meeting for me. And now I don't know anything. Now, I come from a family of hustlers. So my family's, I didn't have to be ashamed of myself around my family because my whole family is hustlers and there were drug dealers. I wasn't like I came from a square family and I was something else. So luckily I was able to be myself. And where I was in that moment. And so when they said they're going to take me to a meeting, because I told you that next day I was in a meeting, it was a miracle how I ended up in there.
Right.
They're like, we're going to take you. And so I put on a tube top for a mini skirt, some really high heels, some red lipstick, because I figure I'll make a little money while I'm there. Because I don't know anything about meetings, right? So I figure I'll make a little money while I'm there. And I walk in and it's all women. It was a women's meeting.
Well, you never know.
It didn't matter, though, what those women thought of me. They all 12-stepped me.
All of them did.
They all 12. It didn't matter what they thought of me, because I'm sure I was quite the sight to see. They probably was like, wow, what is happening? You're doing way too much.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I wanted to go to another meeting. And I said, yeah. And they told me, okay, but we're going to take you home. You got to put some clothes on. So, and they took me to another meeting. And something happened to me there that was miraculous. So my whole life I had been, I've been a survival. I've been surviving on the streets. Yeah. So everything was about tracking who's safe, who's not, who's a trick, I track everything, right?
You still do that today?
I feel a little bit, but in a different way. It's actually been a gift on how to connect with people and how to work with people through some sexual healing, and how to work with people through meditation, on how to be able to feel them and connect with them. Because there's parts of me that are open in ways that were able to open through survival, but now I can use it as a gift. So, feeling everything, tracking everything. I walk into this meeting and I sit up against the wall and I pay attention to where the, exit is. And then all of a sudden I feel my whole nervous system relax. And I hadn't felt that in years. And I was like, I'm safe here. And to watch the light go on in you guys' eyes, and hearing people share about the things that were happening in my internal landscape. And so I stayed. I was able to identify, and I found a place where there was people like me that suffered from the things I suffer from, but who gave me hope based on attraction rather than promotion, right? And through that, I was able to believe that, at first I didn't believe it would be for me, that it was for you guys, but not me. But then I finally was like, okay, I hear your stories, and to be like,
I can guess I can relate a little bit.
And there you go. And I had the luxury of being young and still a little pliable.
How old were you when you got clean?
24.
24. It's
Yeah,
really
23,
young.
24 years old.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Man, that's so crazy. But I mean, it's not because of your story and how old you were when you started to go out there and use. Like, did you ever have anything in that time period, like bad things happen to you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, are you kidding me? You can't live on the streets and bad things don't happen to you. Horrible things. I will tell you, though, there's something, like when I talked about parts of me that were able to be open so I could feel things that other people didn't feel for safety, I escaped a lot of very horrible things. I could just feel them. I don't know why. I don't know how. But I could just no, I got to get out of here. And, 10 minutes later, they bust into the dope. I could just feel shit that, and I think it came from being so young on the streets. There's a part of me that had to feel everything for survival. And I knew to listen to my instincts. I got very lucky because when I was young, there was an old hooker that taught me to always trust your instincts. And so she instilled certain things in me because she knew I would never be able to survive if she didn't give me some, that I was going to do it anyway. So there was an older woman who gave me some really important lessons. And one of the most important was always trust your instincts.
Yeah.
And if you think it's a cop, it is.
Yeah, right. I mean, in that line of work too, I mean, there's so many things that you would have to think about, you know, on a nightly basis, you know, getting beat up or
Yeah, and it
raped
happens. You get raped once a month when you're out there.
That's
it's like
crazy to me.
I happen to be fortunate. I was not physically beaten to like bony bones broken or anything like that. I mean, people might hit you or put their hands around your throat, but you just surrender. Like the money's not worth it. Just you know, okay, fine. Like, you know, so there's a place where also, you know, your instincts kick in, and you know, you might need to fawn, or you might need, like, sometimes fighting isn't the right thing. So, you know, there's fight, flight, fawning. And so my instincts would kick in, and I'd do what I needed to do in order to be safe. You know, the thing is, get out of there alive.
Yeah, right. No matter what,
right?
Right? Just get out of there alive.
Get out of there alive.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, when you said that you went to the meeting for the first time and you just felt like that calmness and stuff. I mean, there's no other feeling because of the life that you had. I would imagine, like, living on the streets and going through all that, you know? So crazy. Did that affect your relationships at all?
Well, I think, as far as, you know, as I met Jose when I had 2 weeks clean. He had a year and a half, I had 2 weeks clean. And we were together 10 years. We had 2 children. And so I was fortunate enough that he was one of those very patient, kind, loving men. He was not aggressive or loud or angry. So he had patience and tolerance for the places that I couldn't surrender. Like when I didn't understand not fighting, and he was so easygoing, you know what I mean? He just like, you know, so it helped. It helped me. If I would have had somebody that was maybe as much trauma as me and as aggressive as me, we would have had a more volatile relationship. But there was parts of him that were easy and soft, which allowed me to surrender, be easy and soft, and know that I was cared for and safe. You know, he took good care of me. He made sure I was safe. We were both in recovery. We were both new. So there was this place of growing. We both had sponsors. We're both doing steps. So there's this place of growing together and being able to work with each other in places. Like, he didn't talk. He wasn't a big communicator. And I process everything out loud. You know what I mean? Right. So we'd hit these walls, but, you know, it's like he's trying to communicate. I'm trying to not be aggressive. I was very aggressive because it's, you know, street life is like you know, you have it's a different way of being. You don't know anything about softening.
Right.
And so I was fortunate that I was with someone who was able to hold space in a way that I was able to soften and grow and love.
Right.
Yeah.
You said he passed away, correct?
He did pass away from liver cancer. He passed away clean.
And you were still married to him?
No, we were already divorced, but he had Hep C, and the strain that he had, the medicine wouldn't work.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So first it was interferon, and then they came out with new medicines, and the strain just wouldn't. And so they gave him so many different medicines that it actually created the liver cancer, and that he passed away.
That's horrible.
In
because it's
2017.
Oh, wow. And you guys been separated for a while then too, right?
I was just divorcing John.
Oh, when he passed away?
Yeah. I divorced John, my mother was dying, and Jose died all at the same time in my recovery. It was the hardest time in my recovery ever. I was just all my foundation of everybody that I knew I could count on no matter what, because Jose and I still stayed, you know, good friends. But everybody that I knew that if anything, that would take a bullet for me, or if anything went wrong, or I'd never go hungry, I'd always be okay, were those 3 human beings, and they all left at the same time. And it was intense.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say, man. Like, staying clean and getting multiple years clean, it's like, it's not for sissies.
Yeah. Because you go through a lifetime of like 37 years you're probably only 37 years old.
Almost 37.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's a whole lifetime. You know, there's so many things that happen, and so many.
Bro, you couldn't say like, no, I'm like 45. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that's okay. And then, Yeah. I always say I got clean when I was 5. No.
Yeah, exactly.
But and now I'm a 60-year-old woman. I'm a menopausal grandma. You know what I mean? So there's been all these shifts and changes in my life from the sexy, vibrant maiden to the mother to now the crone. There's this whole, and all the things that happen, like death and life and birth and divorce and all the things that life has. But I think that's the biggest gift, to be able to really experience the depths of what life really has to offer.
Right.
That's
beautiful. I mean, are you married now?
No.
No? Are you enjoying not being married? And
I actually like being married. I really enjoy being married. I like having a partner. I have a boyfriend. He has 45 years clean. He lives in Pennsylvania, and he's part of the crew that helped put together the basic text.
Really?
Yeah, you should have, when he comes out to visit me, I'll have him come to your podcast.
He has 45 years clean?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it would be quite a treat to have the history of the basic text on the podcast.
Big time. I've never had that. I mean, the closest thing I had was Professor Randy on the show.
Yeah. He had a story in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Randy, Randy.
Yeah,
obviously.
of course.
He's such a great guy.
He's great. He's so funny.
He's so funny.
He's so funny.
That's what people probably don't really realize about him.
He's so good.
Funny as hell.
Yeah.
And he'll chop it up too.
He's got the greatest sense of humor.
He does.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I come from my first sponsor, Glenn Allen. He has the best, raunchiest sense of humor.
He does.
Alan?
I know him really well.
So it's like
he's got quite a story too.
Yeah, and so like connecting with him, because when I came in, I was the same. I thought the same way. We would both say dirty jokes to each other, and I'm like, man, this guy's cool,
Yeah, I love Glenn.
But I forgot what I was going to say now. But yeah, I think. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So when did you start traveling?
So oddly enough, is my mother really liked to travel, and so as a kid, I did a lot of different types of traveling. So I already had a taste for traveling. I'd already been to a lot of different locations before I actually got clean, because with my mom when I was a kid, we went to a lot of awesome places. But then when I got clean, you have children, so we'd travel with the kids. So we'd go places like, places you could bring the kids, and it's not too hard to travel.
Right.
Not too much overseas. We did a lot of Mexico, and taking the kids places. So my kids are good travelers too. But then after my mom died, I got an inheritance, and I could retire, and then I could go wherever I wanted. Right. And the kids are grown, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go.
Wow. And so you don't even work?
No, I don't work.
You're just hanging out.
I take that back. I do work. I work in a community. I'm a facilitator for Awaken As Love, which is, and this isn't a plug for that. It's
just plug it up. It's all good. Yeah.
It's a mystery school, and so
explain.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
It's a mystery school. So we have 4 pillars. We have Tantra, we have shamanism, we have integral theory, and then we have biodanza. And it's a week-long training in school where we go through some of those, there's some mysticism, there's some emotional release techniques. It's really for your own evolution and your raising your own consciousness. Could you maybe just
explain a little? I mean, I'm just going to break this down to you real quick. I'm pretty retarded. So
you're not retarded.
You know what I mean? Like
you're
I don't even
retarded.
know. Did you know what she's? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
What would you say? The mystical, or is that what you said?
Mysticism, which is kind of spiritual things and rituals, and so everybody has their own spiritual practices, right?
Got
it. But what we try to do is bring you closer to those parts of yourself that want to connect spiritually, for your own evolution, for raising your own consciousness in whatever your belief system is, because there's many different belief systems, right? Sure. Raising your own consciousness, looking at humanity and the way humanity is evolving, and your own evolution. It's just about personal growth, to make it simple.
Sure.
So it's a mystery school called Awaken as Love. I also do some shamanic sexual healing work.
What is that?
Some
You said it twice, and once again, I'm like, I
Okay.
have no idea. I just heard sexual, so I'm like, we're going to dig into that.
Okay, so one of the places that I believe in my belief system that we are able to create connection and get close to God is in our connection to each other and in our own humanity and in our own, in the places of love and even in sexual connection. A lot of people who have been traumatized in sexuality or abused hit blocks to where they can't fully allow their spirit to open and to connect to another human being in a way that enriches the experience. A lot of times it's just a physical experience where we're just dealing with this part of the body instead of opening up the whole entire body, the heart, the mind, and being able to go all in and explore in a way that has you soaring through the cosmos. And so helping people release some of those places of blockage and trauma, it helps people open up to being able to connect. And it doesn't always have to be just in a sexual way, but even just connection, period. You know, some
Yeah.
people are just closed off, because
right,
they want
yeah.
to be safe.
Yeah,
and they want
well,
to create
they've been
safety for
damaged,
themselves.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. Well, that makes sense. I mean, I was assuming that that's what it was, but I don't know. I'm like, shit, maybe you're just,
Yeah.
it's a damn orgy or something. You know what I mean? Going on.
Well, there's healing in that for some people.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, everybody gets to choose where they move through the world. It's like I don't decide what somebody's sexual desires should be or shouldn't be, but I know that sometimes trauma will keep us blocked. And so there's certain meditation practices, certain somatic, meditations and body and movement, because the body remembers, and a way to release things out of the body. And I mean, there's a lot to it.
Sure.
This podcast is about recovery, but I mean, I guess that's part of
It's
recovery.
part of it because look there's so many people that are in recovery that guaranteed have been sexually abused by whomever, or beaten or something, to where they're just like closed off and they don't even like sex anymore.
Yeah.
And like what you were saying is like, so I can literally identify with that, because it's like a one-track mind, you're just having sex to have sex and there's no connection,
Yeah.
and that stems from abuse. You can't connect with anybody because, for me, I'm all in my head all the time about this and that or whatever happened in the past, So I think that's really great.
Yeah.
I
I think
mean,
it's a place where people get to experience love.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I'm sure that you've experienced a lot of people falling in love again, or,
And even falling in love with yourself.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Breaking away from the awful things that have happened in the past or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool job.
Yeah. And some
mean-
people are perfectly happy. Like, I'm not, like, some people are perfectly happy being closed off. Like, that's where their comfort zone is. That's where they are. And, this type of work is only for people who are wanting something different.
Sure.
Like, that doesn't feel right to them. Because, I don't want to say that one way is better than the other.
Right.
But if, you're experiencing something that doesn't feel good and you're wanting to break free, then there's a place to do that. Just like recovery, when there was a place when I was like, I need to get clean. I can't live like this anymore. There was something available to me to be able to go to where other people have had these experiences and they were able to show me the way.
Right.
Like there was something available for me when I was ready for a shift and a change in my own way of being and in my own consciousness.
Beautiful.
And so thank God that, there was a roadmap already set out for me. Like people had already said, okay, wow, we've got a way that's proven and this is working. And if you follow our way, like you're going to be great.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to surrender to this because I'm going to die the other way. And some of us get it and some of us don't. And I don't know why that is. I can't figure that out. I don't know what that's about.
Right.
I just know that I came to a point where I knew I was going to die and I didn't want to die.
Even in recovery. Right? Or this was before?
This was when I got clean.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
I never felt like I was going to die in recovery.
Yeah.
There's been a few times in my recovery where I was just like, fuck, is this all there is Just okay, you can just take me. I've had some difficult phases in my recovery, but you know, we support each other here. You know, there's somebody you can call. You know, there's the type of support that we give each other around here is without parallel.
Yeah, I think that everybody, what's so great about this community is everybody, somebody in the group has gone through the same thing that you're going through right now, to where you can have a conversation. It's just about stepping out of the comfort zone and then asking for help or asking for, you know, advice or whatever. Because at least for me, it's like my ego gets in the way still, you know?
Yeah.
And
Everybody. I mean, it's part of humanity, right?
Yeah.
It's just part of, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be a shadow and a light. Like, without the contrast, there is nothing. There's just the void. So there's contrast.
Right. It's funny that you said that when we were talking before the show. It was like living in the shadows, you know? In my addiction, that just reminded me of my addiction, you know? Is constantly in the shadows.
Yeah.
But I had that same sort of feeling like when I knew I was like safe, man, I just acted different too.
Yeah.
Almost like my friend Kenny, like he always talks about his spirit, you know, and how it was the moment that we start using it just like stopped.
Yeah.
We just literally killed our spirit. And there's times where I'm acting like 12, you know, because I had so many awful behaviors that I didn't know what to do with, right, and how to fix. But man, when that spirit starts coming back and you feel it, it's such a high, you know?
And when you feel safe, it's kind of like this whole other human, there's almost that little, it is like the little kid and the laughter and the goofiness and all that gets to come out, you know, and when you're operating in like that ego or in that fear, sometimes it's like we get our whole hard, like, what's up, you know, like, hey, you know, you get like, you know, we put up that shell, that hardened, that, you know, and you don't get to, you know, there's beauty in the softening. Yeah. There really is beauty in the softening. Yeah,
I agree. What is some of the, like, probably what is your, like, number one thing that recovery has given you?
Life. I mean, life beyond my wildest dreams, right?
Right.
And the ability and the ability to really taste life and the experiences. Like, I get to be present. I got to be present in the birth of my children. I got to be present in my parenting. I got to be present in falling in love. I got to be present, like with you right here. I get to be present in these moments of, you know, great joy as well as the sorrow. You know, there's something really delicious about life that I'm no longer numb to, you know. I got to tell you though, the disease still runs my life. I still struggle. Like, I'm overweight. I love to eat. I think the disease has got me strung out on sugar right now. You know what I mean? Like, there's places where I still numb out. You know what I mean? There's those places where I still like Netflix and, you know, so I'm not constantly present. There's places where I numb out, but then I come to the conclusion that sometimes I need a respite, and that's okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? To be constantly present sometimes is overwhelming.
For sure.
So sometimes you just need a respite, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
When it starts getting in the way of your life, then that's when we got to look at it, right? If like all I did was sit on Netflix and didn't go anywhere out, you know, didn't take care of my responsibilities, then we would be like, okay, you know. Time out. And it's kind of getting that way right now with food for me. I'm really, you know, the doctor says like menopause and hormones and you just get fatter, but I'm really like, I feel like the disease is, I'm going to need to work a program around my health at my age.
I think that's okay to do. I mean, you're already there because you're already identifying it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have some great people that I can connect you with that. So fitness is new to my recovery, and it's literally part of my recovery. Like, so I'm sick today and I didn't go, and I've been thinking about it like probably 15 times today. So there's that obsessive still, right? But anyways, I know a lot of guys.
Oh, you've been working out with my sponsor's husband, huh? Jerry Henderson's my sponsor.
Oh, really?
She's been my sponsor the whole time, practically. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's funny because Brian, I was going to bring Brian up too. He's the one that was hounding me to get you on the podcast like even a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, man, her story is so powerful. You got to have her on. And she's a wild woman, he said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But my first 10 years of recovery was a freaking shit show.
And Jerry was your sponsor then?
Yeah, oh, yeah. She would say things to me like, interesting choice you've made. Let me know how that works out for you. Because she didn't know what to do with me. I created so much havoc. And I didn't know I didn't know how to have a real job. So I was hustling. I was still wanting to sell marijuana because I didn't even like marijuana. Like I did everything you weren't supposed to do except get loaded.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't always share, like when I share at the podium or something, I don't always share some of that because I don't want newcomers to think that it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
But it is part of my story. And then there's a bottom that's hit behind the behavior that made me shift and change. And I think that's where the message is that we can stay clean and have a program in spite of ourselves, in spite of our crazy thinking, because, nobody's perfect and nobody practices these principles to perfect adherence, and so we have to give ourselves a break. When we start trying to live in perfection, it's I think it gets worse.
Yeah. Are you the type of person that's worked the steps like numerous times?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, I say a lot. I know a few people that have very long-term recovery that have only worked step once.
Well,
and I'm like, you know what? They're great people. I don't know what they are when they're at home or whatever, but, they're great people.
There's a lot of different ways to sponsor, and really, I think the goal is to live the steps, right? So when we have first step, most of us have already surrendered before we get here, just knowing that we needed to get right. So there's a surrender that happens in the first step. I have a problem. My life's unmanageable. We go into the second step where we're like, okay, we're looking at the insanity of our disease. It's completely insane that we have to trust that something else, that restoration is possible, right? Restoration is possible. You hit the third step, and now you have to have something other than just you, because when you're running it, you make the worst choices. Rather, it's the group, a higher power, whatever that looks like, that you can trust into something else can be there for you to help you through this. So you don't have to do it by yourself. That you can just turn it over and I'm going to be okay. You got to take a look at yourself in the fourth step. We got to really look at the places that I am not functioning and the way that I move through the world that is completely I got a part in this, right? And I can blame everybody else and, it was my childhood and this and that. But okay, where am I? What have I done? Take a look at that, and then being able to be honest and share that with somebody.
Right.
And then look at those places that are dysfunctional and get willing to change those places. Because most of us, we found ways in using that worked, right? We developed these behaviors that completely worked in using, but they don't translate in the new world. So how do you, when you come into a new world with new principles and new ideas of recovery, how does that translate? It doesn't. So we have to get willing to shift and change those parts of us that are no longer serving us. We got to want to let go. It doesn't serve me anymore to be horribly manipulative and all those character defects, right? And then 7, where we really get, we one more time have a higher power greater than us to help us through that, because sometimes we can't see our blind spots and we need help, right? And then where we look at people that we harmed, and then we became willing to make the amends that needed to be amends. And after that, you've cleared your past. You're just completely clear. And now you can move forward in the 10-step daily. Daily, I'm cleared this now. How can I utilize this today? Do I own amends to you? How am I showing up today? Am I acting out in character defects? Where is it that I'm still needing to shift and move, right? And then I get closer to a power greater than myself and my spiritual growth in the places that I need to connect. And so I can stay connected, and that way I can help somebody else. And I help people freely give, So that's it in a nutshell. Yeah. But that's why the principles we're trying to live by, right? And now they have spiritual principles connected to each step. When I first got clean, we did it differently. And then new literature started coming out. And then now we have the flat book, right? And so in that, I've worked out of that because I wanted to understand the new literature. So So to a certain extent, I do it the old-fashioned way, where we worked it, once, and you kind of try to live it. But throughout the years, there's been, believe me, you don't know how many 4-steps I did on Jonas.
For sure.
Hi.
The chickens are really making a lot of noise.
Oh, really? I'll let Elise know.
Scaring them.
Possibly.
I mean, they're
The chickens.
Go get Elise.
They got chickens.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we got chickens.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, big old chicken.
I think she wants eggs. She
Yeah,
came
no,
over because
she's-
she wants eggs.
Yeah, she's a sweet lady. Thank you. I mean, here once
Eggs are
again, we're
expensive.
just hanging out here in the shop. You know what I mean? Anything could happen. We got UPS, trucks, neighbors coming over.
I'm kind of long-winded too.
Yeah, it's fine. What was the step that like really worked in your life and you knew?
All of them.
Yeah.
The 4th wasn't the hardest. 6 and 7 was the hardest because that's where the change needed to, the willingness to let go of certain things that were no longer serving me had to come in. And in order for that willingness to come in, I had to hit a wall and a dysfunction. Like how do you get willingness to let go of something until you're banging your head up against the wall? So like, it's almost like situations would come in my life where like I didn't have, it's like you have a hard choice, either continue hitting your head up against a wall or change.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the only reason why I asked is because I think I tell my sponsees, the 4-step is not that bad. Stop being a sissy.
Yeah, it's a lot of writing.
Yeah, but the 6th step is what whooped me. It was like to identify those character defects, and I was like, whew, I was shocked to see which one was like number 1. And after doing it, not shocked like, oh wow, I know the dope fiend that I am, but just being inconsistent and not being able to follow through with anything. And I was like, wow. So when I finished that step, I was like, I felt like that pink cloud for the first time. Like I was like, holy crap, And still today, I mean, it was like the hardest step. It was the hardest thing to comprehend because those character defects, where they were Dustin for so long, and like that was my identity, was whatever it was,
Yeah.
And it's so crazy because they still come up, like they never go away,
Yeah. Yes. And there's been times they've been an asset for me. There's been a few times my manipulation tactics have really helped me out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's parts of us that don't change, or that we need to keep at bay. I don't know. I mean, I think some of them do go away. I think we have there's lots of different concepts around the 7 deadly sins that sometimes is used in those steps. And so those are all just part of being human. So like, are we ever going to be without, greed sometimes? Are you ever going to be without anger? No, they're all parts of being a human being.
But you are right. There are stuff that we lose.
Yeah. But my reaction to it, or the way my relationship to it, is what gets to change and be more healthy. Yeah. My relationship to my anger, or to my greed, or my, all those things that are part of being a human. Because, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And these things are going to come up, and we're going to have sometimes, emotions that are heavier and not as, what's the word I want to use? Not as polite.
Right, for sure. You were saying in the beginning of your recovery, like you're like a loose cannon and all that. Like, when did that start to change, or did it change? Because I know for me, I know that I've definitely changed since I've gotten here. But like I say, there's some things that still come up, and I try not to live in anger and live in gossip and a lot of stuff, that our fellowship tends to, we like to talk about other people and not look at our shit,
I think humans do that because sometimes I can feel better about myself if I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing that. Look what so-and-so did. I'm doing great.
Yeah, right.
And it's just lack of self-worth, or not knowing, and not being able to look at the parts of you that somehow, and might be having the same, one time you may have had that problem. Like, it's a weird thing. Humans have this weird thing where sometimes we have to be superior to each other. I don't know what that is, but it's all part of being human. Even the parts of me judging the person that judges. Right.
Right.
So
Right. That's always funny.
Yeah, exactly. There was a huge shift for me at about 10 years clean. And it was when I met John. So he's probably going to hear the story, and there's some things of the story he doesn't know, which is fine. It's okay.
Just don't listen, John. You'll be all right.
If he does, it's fine. I mean, it's all part of the process.
Yeah,
right?
just trust the process, John.
It's all part of the process.
It's all good, buddy. We're here for you.
So the first 10 years of my recovery, I still was a prostitute. So I still had.
Wait. Say that one more time.
The first 10 years of my recovery, I was
10
still.
years?
Yes, I was still a prostitute.
No fucking way.
Yes. And
And
so.
you're right. Hold on. You're running trick inside Narcotics Anonymous.
Yes.
That's fucking beautiful.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If people would say it's old behavior, I'd say no, it's not, because it's not street work.
Right.
So in those days, we had these little swing magazines, and we put little ads out, and so it was more like call service, right? So it's call service. It was much different than working the streets, much different than the desperation of using, right? There's a place where I'm a woman who's in choice, right? And so there's some dignity attached to it. There's other, but it's still against the law, right? So you have to take a look at that. But I did not have the shame, fear, a lot of the things that other people get from this type of work, because maybe their religious backgrounds or societal ideas or morality. I don't have that. I don't know what that's about, but I believe it's my body. I'm in choice of what I do with my body, and I can do what I want with it. It belongs to me.
Sure.
So I don't have the type of shame that a lot of other people have attached to this. As a result, I'm always very honest about who I was and what I was doing. In recovery, and I was doing a lot of service work, I was on a committee one time, and they told me that I needed to leave my position because I was a hooker. And I told them I have a right to be here like anybody else. NA has no opinion on outside issues. I shouldn't really be talking about NA because...
It's all right.
Anyway, so they tried to kick me out of my service position, and I was like, you can't kick me out. I have a right to be here like anybody else. That's an outside issue. It doesn't have anything to do with what's going on. So I was fine. I still did my service. And so I lived a life that a lot of other people didn't understand. There was lots of people that wanted to gossip, and a lot of women to be like, oh, stay away from her.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you have like the husbands and the boyfriends and you go and have a conversation with them, they're probably like,
yeah,
better stay away from Anna. Dude.
Yeah, and Jose was with me at the time, right? We had an open marriage, and Jose understood me and my the way that I worked, and the way we had relationship agreements, and so it was between us, between our relationship, we had agreements that worked. I stayed in integrity in those agreements, and that's just the way that is. But other people couldn't understand. And I had gone to the point where I had normalized something that actually isn't normal, right?
Yeah.
And actually is against the law. I had, divorced Jose, was still, and I wasn't no longer like advertising, but I had 3 very wealthy men that took care of me and paid everything all the time.
Right.
Just took care of me. And that was my life. And then I met somebody, John, somebody, and, I heard around here, if you want something different, then you got to do something, right? Mm-hmm. If you do what you always did, you get what you always get.
Yeah.
I was like, I would really desire something different. And I didn't really tell him where I was at that moment when I started dating him, but he was really liking me, and I was really looking at wanting a different type of life. So in that, talking to my mother about how I felt, she said, let me pay for some real estate school for you. So I was like, I went to real estate school, and I have a learning disability. I never even finished, 4th grade. I didn't go to school. Obviously, I was a runaway. I didn't go to school. I didn't have any, I'm just not very smart like that. I have my intelligences and other things. And, so I went to school. It was really difficult. I kept going. I had a hard time. I didn't know how to study. I don't know how to read very well. And then it comes time before you can take the state test, you have to take a little principles course.
Sure.
So I walk in, I'm going to take this test, and on the way over there, I'm crying. Now, granted, I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm driving John's Mercedes, and I'm crying and bawling my eyes out. And it's just because I get very dramatic at times. I'm very dramatic, and so I'm crying. I was like, "Oh my God, you got to help me! You got to help me! How am I going to do this? I'm so scared." And I get in there, and they give me like the bubble card and the little booklet. And then I open up the book, and I go into this little room, and I'm in this little room by myself. I open it up. They gave me the answer book on accident, right?
Oh, wow.
So I was like, yes. So I missed 2 on purpose because I don't want to be obvious, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not like,
And
rock
so
star
I
right
give
now.
them, I go back, I go like, don't notice. They don't notice, right? I get in the car, I call my mom. I'm like, Mom, you're never going to guess what? They gave me the answer book on accident. She goes, you cheated? And I go, F you, I know a miracle when I see one. I prayed for that. So I was, in this mindset that I am actually being guided by the universe. I can trust in God. I can trust Him because something came in that helped me, right?
Yeah.
Now, rather it's, denial and you cheated, and a lot of people have, like I said, I don't have the same moral compass other people have, right?
Right.
So, so it gave me, because I think if I wouldn't have passed, I would have still felt like I can't do anything else. So it gave me the spark of like, okay, maybe I can do something different. And so I took the state test and I failed it. And then John had gotten this tape, so I don't have to read it. Like it's a videotape. And then I could retain all the information because I could learn by the visual and the audio. I just couldn't read it. Anyway, I passed.
Nice.
I got a real estate license. I got married, and I gave up a life for something different because I wanted to try something different. Right. I had kind of hit a spiritual bottom in a way with that. There was nothing in that lifestyle that was no longer feeding my soul. Like I was able to pay bills, but there was something missing as far as, family and connection and creating a life outside of this place where in some places I had to be in the shadow, or some places it was illegal. Like I couldn't talk to my children about what I did for a living. Like my children, they're not aware of a lot of my story because we don't have a society that understands that kind of. We have a society that really shames women in those positions. Yeah. And so
Your kids still don't know about your past?
Well, they know that I have 37 years clean, that I was a drug addict, and that the drug addicts do lots of crazy things in order to survive. Yeah, good. But they don't know those parts of my story as far as when I was clean and still, because it's just something I didn't feel like, I felt like it would make them feel like something was wrong with them. Yeah. Because we come from a society that creates so much shame around that. I didn't want my sin to shame them.
Yeah, I understand.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
And so, and when I use the word sin, I don't think it is a sin, but it's kind of like, it's the way society sees it.
Yeah. But you don't want to damage them, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, you want to protect your children. Yeah. And so that was another reason. That was the other bottom. There was a spiritual bottom that was hit because of my children and just wanting something different. And so, I will tell you that it was one of the biggest surrenders I had in my life. When we talk about the first step, the second step, and the third step, that was one of the biggest surrenders where I had to let go, let God, and trust in the process. And that I was actually being, that the universe was, carrying me, that I was okay, that I could let go of something that no longer served me, and that I was going to be held. And there you go.
Yeah,
it's just,
you just like, that's so crazy to me,
yeah.
to think about it. I mean, did you... Like when you said, okay, yo, I'm done, was it like, because I mean, it's almost like a form of another addiction, right? I mean,
You know, for some people, they might see it that way. And just because I am built different,
sure.
I'm built different. Knowing that I have something special in me that is a sacred sexual healer, that I could meet people in places no one else would meet them, which actually heals them. When you come to somebody and you're not being able to be met in your sexual desires or needs, and somebody meets you there, there's healing in that. Right. And people don't understand those places of when you're living in integrity in that lifestyle. It's a much different. Most of us have this idea, like when we're using, this idea that there's this, there's the, what's the word for it? The desperation, where you're giving of yourself in ways you didn't want to because you're desperate for the drugs or the money. That's a way different energy than an energy of than the way I lived when I was clean. It's a different space.
It's so wild, though. I think what's really crazy to me is like you put yourself in those positions, being clean too, which we all do. We all put ourselves in some. I've put myself into some spots to where I'm like, I should not be here, right? But for you to do that, being clean, like that was still playing like Russian roulette, because you just never know.
Yeah, exactly.
One bad Joe, and it's like
you don't know.
You hear about it all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. There is, for me, because of the way that I operated and that I had regular people that I saw. And in the very beginning, we took some new people, but we had a network of women who just used the same people. And so we didn't, because there's a lot, yes, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of danger in just brand new people that you don't know anything about. Right. So I did to the best of my ability, keep myself in safe situations. But it's not perfect. Right. And there's also, you can get arrested. It's illegal.
There, there you go.
Like I had to keep reminding myself, like, Anna,
9.5 years clean. The next thing you know, boom, we get busted.
And that
shit?
actually almost happened to me. So we don't have a lot of time, but I got war stories clean that people don't have using, dude.
Really? I know.
Yeah, I got more war stories clean than you have using. So, like, I got stories that you wouldn't believe.
I know. Well, we just like touched on the surface of like where you're from and like who you are, and like, I mean, I definitely got a lot out of this show, but I was thinking too. I wanted to ask, but then we just start going on a rant. But I wanted to say, like, let's talk about some war stuff, but. I think that'll be the next show. I'll definitely have you come back on, and we can talk about that. But real quick before we leave, I was just curious. So, where did you meet your boyfriend traveling, like convention
I did.
stuff?
I met him in Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yeah. I met
so,
him
do you
in
go to
Zurich.
all the world conventions?
Yes, and this was the European convention in Zurich, Switzerland, is where I met him.
Wasn't it in English, right? Or it was?
No, yeah. The European conventions are in English because they're different parts of Europe.
See what I'm saying, Boise?
And the reason why is because, even though each country has its own language, since it's all of Europe, we have to have one common language that everybody, and so English is a second language all through Europe. Right. So that way everybody can, and for people who don't speak English, they have headsets where you can have it translated in your language.
That's awesome. Sweden, huh?
Yeah, no, Switzerland. So I met him in Switzerland. And we just had fun. They have live bands, and we just had a lot of fun. He was actually dating someone else, and so was I. And we were around the same people that were our friends. So we didn't try to connect romantically. We were just around the same people and having fun and dancing and carrying on, and we knew some of the same people. And then he broke up with her. I had broke up with my boyfriend at the time. And then he had messaged me. He said, "Hey, how are you doing? I was thinking about you. I'm going to Thailand for the convention in Thailand." And I was like, "I want to go." He's like, "All right, come on." And then I met him in Thailand, and that's
it.
Yeah.
That's all she wrote,
That was it.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
5 years ago.
Nice. It's still going strong.
Well, we actually broke up for a little while because it's very hard to have a long distance relationship.
For sure.
It's a lot. I mean, we're really far away, and he takes care of his mom in Pennsylvania. I have my children out here. And there wasn't going to be a possibility for coexistence at that time. So I thought, well, maybe it's better that we're not together. And then we recently reconciled because we miss each other horribly.
Because you miss each other, yeah. So you
Yeah.
definitely have a connection with him.
Yeah.
That's
He's
awesome.
really a beautiful human being.
That's awesome.
He's really a beautiful human
Well,
being.
I mean, the future will probably be bright. I mean, unfortunately, if he's taking care of his mom, I mean,
yeah.
you know.
And so it's hard. It's hard, but I mean, at this age, I will tell you, as you get older, things change. Well, maybe not for everybody, but for me, things have changed. So when I was young, physical connection, constant physical connection, even sexual connection, was really important when you're young. You want to, I had sex daily in my 30s and 40s. And as I've gotten older and I've gone through menopause and things like that, my body changes and the kinds of connections that I have, I don't have to, we still are active, but it doesn't have to, it's just not the same.
Right.
This is not the same.
You're not wound up, you know what I mean?
He's 65, I'm 61, and it's just different.
Right.
That there's still love and connection and things, but that we're just taking a look at it differently and finding ways that we can spend more time together. And him, maybe like we're talking about his mom coming to my house for a couple months and being cared for there, and then me going over there. So we're looking at different solutions.
That's cool. Yeah. So, and that's you guys got back together recently, or has it been?
He called me on Valentine's Day.
And said, "That's it. I'm done. We're back together.
Yeah,
Can't handle this anymore. I need you in my life."
yeah.
What's his name?
Al R. from
Al
Pennsylvania.
R. For yeah,
Bucks County, Pennsylvania. When he comes to
my
visit,
next
I gotta have
podcast
him.
guest. Yeah, for sure. I would definitely love that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We can have you on too. We have a couples.
A couple.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
how about that?
You know?
It's just hard.
I haven't done. I used to do 3 people in a podcast.
Oh, really?
And
That's
I just
cool.
been focusing on one and just one conversation and. But whatever, I think that'd be fun to have both of you guys on.
I think it's just hard because we do have the 11th tradition, so where they don't want to cross the 11th traditions. Because I don't speak for Narcotics Anonymous, even if that's where I got clean. I can't speak for that
Yeah, for
fellowship.
Sure.
I can share my experience, but like him, I guess he could just give basic text history.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just ask a couple questions like, what was it like, probably, and what were you doing? And like,
Dude, they put it together in his
he has
farmhouse,
to
in
be
his
smart.
house.
He has to be really smart too.
He is really smart.
You know,
I love
mean,
smart men.
Yeah.
I love smart men.
Well, they ain't
I
in this
think-
room. I'll tell you that.
Because I'm kind of dumb as a stump. I'm not that, I just don't have a lot of that kind of scholastic thinking.
Right.
So I'm really in awe of it. People who are scholastic.
Like super smart. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, John was born a genius.
Really?
He was born being able to read the freaking Matrix, dude.
Yeah,
He
it was
never
so
even went to
crazy.
school.
He was supposed to come on the podcast too, and then he was going out of town and blah blah blah. But
He does a lot of traveling.
John's a great guy. I mean, I was in Sturgis last year. Him, Brian, Skeeter,
He's a good writer.
and I think somebody else came. But anyways, they came to where we were at and hung out, and it was just like so cool to see our people in
Yeah.
Sturgis.
Yeah.
Like what? And John, he's just a dude. He just goes to meetings everywhere. So when you travel, you're probably going to
Yeah.
meetings too, right?
I always sit in a meeting wherever I go. It's so
Yeah.
cool to do.
It is really cool.
It's really cool. And you just don't know how good we got it.
Yeah.
Like I'm in meetings in Nepal where there's just a few women and like women can't even go, like their parents won't let them go into a meeting, or the men. Like there's cultural differences that really create it difficult for women to get clean. And that's always breaks my heart.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah. All right. Well, do you have anything you want to end the show with?
No,
right.
I guess I gave you all the secrets.
Yeah, you did. It was great.
Did I do good?
Yeah, you did fantastic. You did so well. I want you back on. So
Okay.
we'll have to.
We'll have the War Stories edition.
Yeah, the next one is to be War Stories. You heard it first. You know what I mean?
The clean War Stories.
Yeah, the clean one at that. Yeah. I know it's really hard because to like get into conversations of like of prostituting and stuff, because it's like, man, like I can't even see you like that, right?
Yeah, nobody
But-
can. It's
Yeah, it's so funny because I was thinking back to where Brian was like, yeah, dude, Anna's been through some shit, you know, and she has a story. And I had no idea when you said that. I
Yeah.
thought it was, you know, at when you were 14 or whatever, but getting into the story. Well, I don't
Yeah.
need to recap. We already heard it, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's fantastic. So,
Yeah. And I
mean-
think the message in that is there is hope, you know, that you
Yeah.
can stay clean, be clean, even in spite of yourself. Like, that, yeah, there's hope no matter what, because, you know, none of us come here perfect. We all have a different road. We all have a different, but, you know, if you continue to live in recovery, go to meetings, work steps, have a sponsor, do service, be involved, read our literature, you will change and grow into the woman that God intends you to be.
boom.
Or human,
Right.
like men. We're not leaving the guys out.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you can't do that. It's 2025. We got a lot of fucking lifty-loos over here, you know what I mean?
People.
All right, well, I'm just going to end the podcast with that because you just dropped the mic, so y'all know the deal.